All right. We're all set over there. Looks like we're just after 7. We've got a forum, so I'll call the meeting to order. First item on our agenda is to, well, actually, before that, I'll point out, which should be obvious, but just so we're all clear, since there's only 3 of us, we have to agree unanimously to anything or it doesn't happen. Having said that, first item on our agenda is approving minutes from last meeting, which were emailed out. We've also got a copy in front of us. I see August 11th instead of the 10th, but other than that, it looked good to me. Anyone else see anything?
I didn't see anything.
Motion to approve with that minor change.
Move to approve the minutes with that change.
I will second.
All in favor?
All right.
Any opposed? All right, that is the minutes. Which brings us to opening the second public hearing for this particular application. I will waive the reading of the public notices that are published in the Sentinel. I assume everyone's familiar with the property. So I think this would be where, I don't know if you would like to offer anything new, or
I would like to just.
Yeah, you'll just need to state name and all
Yeah.
that for record.
Richard Franco on behalf of the petitioner from Davidson Fink. Obviously, we have the notice of rehearing. For the record, we haven't been presented with any new evidence or anything like that. So if there is new evidence presented, we request an opportunity to vet it and rebut it. And we would preserve our objections, obviously, to the extent it's necessary, on the basis of the rehearing, as we don't really know what it is, so.
fair enough. As I understand the reasoning, and by all means, David, jump in if I'm misrepresenting things at all. But the town attorney requested that we go through this process so we can add additional supplemental information to our previous decision. And
New evidence.
In light of the new evidence, as far as your lawsuit against the township,
I'm sorry,
your lawsuit against the township.
you have new evidence?
No. Let's,
Yeah,
I don't think there's any new evidence. This is a clarification of our previous decision.
Okay.
There's no new evidence.
Okay.
And I read through what the attorney put together, and my feel of it, by all means, jump in, guys, if you feel anything different, but what. It doesn't disagree with anything we said, it just clarifies and adds more. It kind of captures the words better, is my
Okay,
feel.
I would just go on the record that and check. To the hearing under the town code 269. As that this basis.
What was the citation? 260.
90.
90.
Okay.
And I don't think that, again, David, by all means, jump in if you disagree. I don't think that changes our process from here. No, it doesn't. But noted.
Thank you.
And looking at my notes here. All right, so. Steve and Dustin, you both read through the suggestion from the attorney for a supplement. And just to make sure I have this process right here, Dave, we're essentially taking our previous decision and we're stating the supplement to the back of it as a total action. In
Yes.
essence. All right. So in the supplement. There are a couple things that I think are worth highlighting. Read a couple paragraphs here. In order to operate a rental business, property and residence without violating the Mendon Town Code, the applicant was required to establish that its use of the residence on the property as a retail business was permitted rental business, but permitted use in a RI5 residential district. Otherwise, such use was expressly prohibited. The record is clear that the applicant's rental business of the property did not involve agricultural farming and so was not a permitted use in the RA5 district. Record is also clear that applicant's short-term rental business of the property was not a home occupation as permitted with or without a special use permit. Consequently, appellant's rental business of the property was prohibited under the Mendon Town Code and was not unregulated as the applicant claims. Hmm. The Mendon Town Code obviously cannot specifically deal with every situation that would occur. And so when a zoning dispute arises, it is the responsibility of the board to investigate the facts, interpret the code when appropriate, and apply the code to new situations and particular facts involved in a dispute appearing before the board for local resolution. Unless a matter of code interpretation or application is abstract, whether or how the Mendon Town Code applies in a specific situation depends on an investigation of particular facts and particular property, finding of what facts are under the circumstance, and application of the town code to the specific facts found significant as a matter of local interpretation. Even though sometimes a matter can be construed or interpreted in different ways, the town of Mendon has determined that its zoning board of appeals, made up of designated members of our community who lives here, to be the arbiter of zoning issues under the Mendon Town Code to resolve disputes with reasoning that is rational and supported in the record. What do you want me to highlight there on page 4? Paragraph is that again?
The board has further determined implicitly that the minor matter of all the rooms in the residence being rented does not significantly change the meaning of tourist home under the Mendon Town Code for purposes of interpreting permitted uses in an RA5 residential agricultural district. Decision at 3. The concept of rooms of a residence being available for rent to transients as the meaning of a tourist home is general enough to include all the rooms of a residence, and the board has implicitly so found. See ZBA decision at 3. To clarify this point, the board explicitly finds that the appellant's rental business of the entire residence at the property amounts to the operation of a tourist home under the Mendon Town Code, and a tourist home is not permitted in the RA5 residential agricultural district without a special use permit as section 260-13D.
Bunch of talking here about single families, which I am inclined not to read through the whole page and a half, but I just thought I should say that this interpretations versus variance. If this was a variance, either use or area, it would affect that property and to a lesser extent the neighboring ones. As an interpretation, if we decide that the definition of single family includes running a business of short-term rentals or whatever time frame there, then that would affect, in essence, the entire town. Because we're interpreting the definitions of things. And we've got, I'm going to call it a page and a half of going on that in detail. You've got a comment in there, paragraph, a major purpose. Yeah. So it looks like you have the earlier graph. Yeah, which is okay because the bulk of it's still the same.
All right.
I'll read it, sure. A major purpose of the RA5 residential agricultural district under the Mendon Town Code is to preserve and maintain the residential atmosphere, appearance, and character of residential living with stable neighbors and neighborhoods to promote a strong sense of community in accordance with the Mendon Comprehensive Plan. Operating a business other than normal farming in the RA5 residential agricultural district is inconsistent with residential living in such districts. Appellant's rental business at the property requires careful consideration and balance of residential and business interests, which are addressed for a specific property and proposed businesses through the required special use permit process. The Continual weekly or so churn of occupants at the property from appellant's rental business is incongruous with the traditional residential neighborhood sought to be fostered in the RA5 residential agricultural district. Such traditional neighborhoods establish a fairly stable community where neighbors learn who their neighbors are, develop relationships with them, and together address issues that may arise in the neighborhood. Short-term visitors play no significant role in knitting the fabric of local community residents together, and the transient nature of appellant's short-term rental business without an owner living there would seem to prevent development of the neighborhood at the property, because no familiar and long-term relationships will likely occur with the transient rental occupants. Moreover, no owner is present on the property through all seasons and living there like a normal residential family would be, inhibiting development of relationships with neighbors and in the social whole and the local community application. It argues that its residential business does not quite fit the town code provisions for tourist home under section 26052 because the entire residence is rented, not just some rooms, and neither it nor its members ever reside there, while owners of tourist homes typically do. And so appellant's rental business cannot constitute a tourist home under the town code. Appellants misapprehends the relevant town code provisions regulating its rental business. As discussed, applicant's rental business is using the property as a tourist home, which use is prohibited in the RA5 residential agricultural district without a special use permit. As applicant does not have a special use permit for its rental business at the property, its use of the property as a tourist home is in violation of the Mendon Town Code, as CEAB determined at this board is reaffirming in this supplemental decision on the interpretation. I'll read the next two paragraphs because I think that should conclude it, but by all means, if anyone wants to toss anything in, do so. Whether an appellant may obtain a special use permit for its rental business at the property is a separate issue not presently before the board. Section 26052 provides for the condition of a tourist home that qualifies for a special use permit, but does not itself define tourist home nor describe the only kind of tourist home that can exist under the Mendon Town Code. As is demonstrated on this appeal, there are various kinds of tourist homes, and the kinds which qualify for a special use permit without variances are set forth in the same section of the code as having certain characteristics, such as being owner occupied to foster stable residential neighborhoods. Appellant's belief that defines tourist home as used in the Mendon Town Code is misplaced and does not excuse its non-compliance with the Mendon Town Code requirements for a special use permit to operate its serial rental business at the property in RA5 district. For the reasons discussed in the board's May 25th decision and in this resolution regarding its supplement, the board reaffirms its May 25th decision on interpretation that CEO Gates' determination on August 1st is upheld as the correct interpretation of the Mendon Town Code as it existed prior to the enactment of chapter 236. To the effect that appellant short-term rental business at the residence at the property is not and was not permitted use in an RA5 district without a special use permit. So I think that is the bulk of what I would phrase that all as a better way to word our discussion and previous deliberation in a more all-encompassing way to put it. But if anyone has any other thoughts, by all means, jump in. Because I don't think this doesn't change our decision.
No, it just clarifies our stance.
So by process, this would be the part where we would go for public comments. Between, I'm assuming no one's online and no one else is in the room. I know you had an opportunity to speak a little bit. If you'd like to say anything.
Yeah, we were just, reiterate my previous objections. And ask that we serve the copies.
Unless. David, you see a legal reason not to, I would be inclined to give the applicant a hard copy, although I'm sure it will end up,
As soon as it's
Signed.
signed and filed,
Yeah.
then they can get a copy of that,
okay? So that would say tomorrow, then I get
Get that from you.
probably from Katrina.
You know, it's gotta be signed by the town clerk and by Danny, and it's gotta be dated with today's date, anything that might be changed at all tonight.
Okay, thanks.
So I would say, maybe next week, or start next week. I can scan it and email it to you, and I'll send it in the hard copy to you. No,
I can give you the cards.
I have it.
Okay.
Thank you.
all right, with that. Anyone else have anything else to say before we close the public hearing? All right, motion to close the public hearing,
So moved.
Second.
all right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, then that is the public hearing. I know I went through and read the bulk of our supplemental bit that was written up by legal counsel. Anyone want to discuss anything more? Go on to move this as is.
To move with the amendments.
So we're taking our decision from before and we're adding supplement, so it would essentially be moving as written on page 9, page 7. To board reaffirms the decision and adds the supplement. So yes, is that, so you're moving?
Yeah.
All right.
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, then that is that. Do we have anything on the schedule in the future?
Not yet, not officially. September 28th will be a Donaldson area variance for a pond that doesn't take the setback in the property lines. It's gonna encompass 2 properties. I don't have the updated maps yet from the engineer, but when I have that in an application, it'll be given to you. But that's the intent to have him then, and then before the planning board for site plan approval for a barn, also with the it's just a lot, but you guys just have to worry about. the
All right, that's coming
variance.
down the pipe. Good, all right.
Nothing on the 14th.
1 second. No, we've passed that date. So at this point, September 28th is all you have.
All right, thank you. Does anyone have anything else to bring up? Motion to adjourn,
To adjourn.
second,
Oh, second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, then that has been a meeting.
And